Hello, everybody. I feel like you've heard a lot of me talking today, but I haven't really introduced myself at all. My name is John Hilliard. I'm a software engineer for NextJump. I've worked at NextJump since 2008. I was first an intern, and then I worked part-time my senior year in college, actually in this office, and then I started full-time in 2009. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about NextJump's approach to recognition and how it's evolved over time. Might seem a little odd for an engineer to be talking to you about how we run our recognition program. So just a little bit about that. I've been involved with our recognition programs for many years in just different capacities. Our biggest one in particular is the Avengers program. And so I originally ran that with our team here, helped develop that, and I've run that the past few years. So I was thinking a little bit last night about our journey of recognition, what that looks like. And I thought it would be funny to kind of tell it from the perspective of two different Johns. So here is me with John Nellen. My name is also John, so John Hilliard and John Nellen. We are very similar. We're the same age. We both engineers. We both went to school in Boston, both arrogant, both started in 2009, and we've both won NextJump's top honor at some point in our history. The main difference is we've won it 5 years apart. So I think in our different journeys, like earning that top honor, the award itself changed dramatically, and I feel like the reflection of that would be helpful for you guys to see. I do think kind of in an alternate universe, probably John and I are like twin brothers or something, but I was thinking that this would be kind of an interesting way to talk about it. So if you look back, our NextJump's top honor was this award called the President's Award, and you can see the description on the little placard there. The ultimate recognition from the CEO for reaching the company milestone and benchmarks. Winners are awarded $10,000 in the next paycheck. This award doubles in value every time you receive the award the same year. So, when I first started, my impression of this award was like, wow, that's crazy, that's awesome. Like, what do I need to do to win that award? But it wasn't necessarily clear like how to win it. It's just like the CEO picks and you get $10,000 and that's how it runs. My recollection of this award was one of the challenges that we always had for a long time was getting engineers and our teams to use the gym. We have these gyms in each office, but people wouldn't use them. We had the fitness competition that would incentivize you with you could win money. There's all kinds of different ways that we tried to get people to use the gym and nothing worked. One day, John Nellen got his whole team, so we're divided up into teams for our fitness competition. He got his whole team to go to the gym twice in a week. So it was the first time it had ever been done. And in order to recognize that sort of new milestone, that new achievement of getting an entire team to go to the gym twice in 1 week, John was awarded with the President's Award. And the way it works is the CEO, the leadership team would pick it. During our Monday meeting, it was just kind of a surprise. We have our company staff meeting and be like, oh, let's call up John Nellen, and he's awarded with the President's Award. And it was a monetary value award. And it was really great work. It set a new standard for the team. But at the same time, there were some downsides to the way that this approach worked. Some water cooler talk, things like that. It's oh, John Nellen is the managers really like him and that's why he won it. Or John Nellen was really hard on his team and kind of was crazy and made everyone go to the gym and that's why he won it. No matter what, it's we had the best intentions. We wanted to recognize the great leadership and the efforts that John Nellen put into getting his team to reach a new milestone. But the way the award was set up, it was able to breed resentment, even though that was not our intention whatsoever. So I wanted to fast forward 5 years. So in 2015, 5 years later, this is the way our awards had changed. Our top honor was now called the Avengers Award. So this is me and my mom on the day that I won the Avengers Award. And it was totally different. You can see from the points below, rather than the management team picking, the company picks. So it's like a vote. There's a process, and I'll get into that a little bit. It's awarded not in a company meeting. It's twice a year the whole company comes together, and one is before this large CEO talk. So Simon Sinek speaks at it, Brene Brown spoke at it, Jim Lear spoke at it. After they speak, we have our Avengers ceremony, and that's when it's awarded, not just a company meeting. Additionally, the person who presents the award is not a manager, it's a peer. And so we're up there and a peer is giving a speech about why you deserve this award and why that happened. And lastly, it's not a monetary award. It's not just $10,000 in the bank, it's actually an experience with your family. And so, when I won, I still can think about it. I was on stage, and the way it works is your family is flown in. You don't really know that they're there, so they just come out of a door from somewhere. And so you're on stage, And at the same time, one of your peers is reading a speech that they wrote about you and like how you've helped them or how you've moved the company forward. You're there on stage with your parents. I was there with my mom and my grandparents. And I think in that moment, it's like I realized it's like at NextJump, I had grown as a person. My mom was proud of who I'd become at NextJump. And the award was so much more than about a single achievement. It was about like how I had grown and how I'd helped others. And like just one small thing to give you a sense of the difference between the award we had done and where it had gone. Afterwards, my mom was telling me when she was on stage, she's like, I don't understand, like, who are all these people and why are they all crying? And like, when you're looking out in the audience, like, it's like the vibe is just so different from the President's Award and the Avengers Award. And like through stories, like that's kind of the difference in the evolution in our awards. And so I will try to distill some of the differences and insights that we've learned over time with these particular awards. But I just wanted to start off with those stories. So this is kind of a little bit of a punch list in terms of, where we were and where we are in terms of recognition. The President's Award, it had this feeling of like management picks. Like you don't really know how it works, but the leaders are going to pick, they're going to look, they're going to find it. And then ultimately the person who is recognized is the person the managers pick. And that works, but it has this like that water cooler thing, like, oh, why did they win, not me? And like, and it just breeds it can easily breed resentment. And where we move to is like, is crowdsource. So there's voting, there's process, there's transparency, there's stories. It's like clear to the company why this is the award, why it happened. And then you end up with a very different outcome. It's not just it's like, at the end, everybody is like, the audience is crying. They're like, they feel involved in the process. They feel connected to the people on stage, as opposed to just an event that happens. The second bullet point here, quarterbacks versus linemen. I'll get into that a little bit more, but basically we are trying to recognize not necessarily the people who are achieving the most, but the people who are helping others succeed. The people who are achieving the most, the MVPs, they're recognized through other means. They're already in the positions of leadership probably. They're already getting paid more probably. And so like the recognition program is built to enforce the culture you want to build throughout the entire company, not just recognizing the MVPs. Lastly, this is a little bit different. I'll get into that a bit more, but in the past, a lot of our recognition programs depended on one like event. And when that event happened, we never talked about it again. So it's like, John Nellen won, you got the President's Award, good job. And then it just kind of like, there weren't lessons, it wasn't distilled, there weren't stories, it wasn't on the walls. And where we've moved to is like, one, doing it more, and two, like sharing it and having it be like a story, like putting it on the walls. You probably have seen pictures of Avengers on the walls somewhere on your tours and whatnot. But that's one of the major differences. So I talked about this a little bit, quarterbacks versus linemen. I guess the two main things here is like the things that you recognize become like part of your culture. So if you're whatever you choose to recognize can become part of your company or your team's DNA, for lack of a better word. And what we moved from is just shifting whoever gets the right outcome to whoever like is helping others, who's investing in the process and doing things in the way that we as a company value. And so, that idea of the quarterback would not be able to do their job without the lineman. And it's like the quarterback might be the MVP, but like how does that work without a lineman that's working together? And we wanted to be able to have a program that recognized the linemen and the quarterbacks as well. And so like the Avengers and a lot of our things are built for the linemen and who helped, answering that question of who helped you succeed. This is something we do talk about a lot, and around the structure of practice and building behavior change. A lot of times, I love these examples. For example, like a lot of people, when they want to do behavior change, they move toward intense. It's like, if I want to diet, I'm going to do a 3-day liquid diet, and I'm going to run for 2 hours every day. And like that's kind of like the intense methodology of behavior change. Almost never works. It's not healthy. It's not sustainable. Recognition has a very similar parallel, where it's we want to be able to consistently recognize the behaviors that we want to reinforce in our culture. Not just a once a year, like here's the top person. It needs to be cultural. It needs to be like weekly, monthly, and yearly. And so I'll walk you through a little bit in terms of like how we've structured our recognition programs in that weekly, monthly, yearly structure. So here's what it looks like. I don't have my mouse, but basically there's 3 different recognition programs that we have at NextJump. Coronitas, Top 10, and Avengers. The Avengers program is like that big thing. Everybody from all of our office flies in. Top 10 is our the mobile app recognition program. I'll try to demo it if I can get the mouse to work properly. And Coronitas is our weekly recognition platform. So every week we run this event called Coronitas where you recognize someone who helped you in some way, big or small, by giving them a Coronita, which is a small Corona. And it's not checked. It's like anybody can give a Coronita to anyone else. It's just a way of saying thank you in front of everybody. Fitness has that same parallel of consistency, intensity. So we just have that there as well. It's like we have that weekly fitness check-in, but we also have like a yearly race that everyone does. And like that's a way to sort of build healthy behaviors within our company. So Coronitas, I talked about it a little bit. I can go a little bit more in depth. At the end of each week, and I think you guys will be a part of it in our office, at 5 o'clock, we come together, we'll have some food, we'll talk about company buzz, and then the floor kind of opens up for like, does anyone have any Coronitas they want to give? And so, for example, if Nick was really helpful to me on something, I would grab a Coronita. In our office, like we have Smurfs as well, so I'll find a Smurf that kind of resembles, how he helped me. Like there's a scuba diver one, so I'd be like, oh, thanks for diving into that problem or whatever. And so it's like we recognize each other with that platform. Like that's how we use that, and like it actually turns into like a process of the whole thing is structured so that like we're constantly recognizing others who've helped us succeed. And like the Coronitas program is built that way, and it's a weekly ritual. On the monthly side, I'll try to let me just show you the screenshots of Top 10 because I think I don't know if the mouse is going to work. So this is Top 10, high level. We have a shopping platform, and at the beginning of the month, every single employee within NextJump is given 1,000 WOW points for recognition. 1,000 WOW points is like $10. At any point during the month, I can take out my phone and say, hey, Nick, thank you for helping me succeed this month. Thank you so much for all your help. I give him like 100 points. That then anyone in the company can see that I just recognized him. They can go in and boost a vote, like, oh, I agree with that. They can comment on it and engage with the platform that way. I can give any number of votes. At the end of the month, there's a leaderboard of who received the most votes that month. And what we do is we read out in front of the entire company who got the most votes. So for example, I'm trying to think here if it's here. Oh yeah. So this is like on the top right there. On Monday of this week, I read out all of these stories about the top 10 employees of the month and like how they helped others. And so it's still that same idea of like recognizing the people who are helping others succeed. This isn't about who drove the most sales or who built the most stuff or who made the most money. It is really about like all these stories you'll see are like, thanks for helping me, thanks for covering for me, thanks for doing all these things, not like thanks for making the most money. The other thing is that process is, part of the lesson of that is that wasn't, this is like an evolution. Top 10 itself, evolved similar to President's Award to Avengers. Top 10 used to be, you would cast a vote and it would go into a secret spreadsheet that only the managers could see, and then at the end, top 10 employees would come out. Over time, we learned about, it was much better to make that entire process transparent. So people had faith in the process, they understood why people who were in the top 10 were in the top 10, and tried to make everything clear. There's some details here about Top 10 in particular and how we think about it. Sharing the stories publicly was a big thing. There aren't really even any pictures, I feel like, of the President's Award and how it was given. It was just kind of, it happened, and it wasn't really well documented. One of the other kind of benefits of being in the top 10 is that, so if I'm in the top 10 this month, I have the privilege of recognizing someone else who helped me as well. So say, for example, here there's this note called CEO Spotlight. So since I was in top 10, I wanted to recognize someone who helped me as well. And so I sent Charlie a note about how helpful Shuelan had been to me personally. So I get to send a note to the CEOs and say, hey, I'm glad I'm in the top 10, but I really also want to recognize this other person who really helped me. And so it's giving a lot of transparency into the ways that people are working together, the ways that people are helping each other. And ultimately, from my perspective, this is one of the best parts about being in top 10 is being able to directly, spotlight someone to the CEOs of our company that they have been very helpful. So I wanted to talk about Avengers in a little bit more detail because it's a program that it's near and dear to me. I've run it I've been involved with the team for a long time, and I think it gives a lot of insight into how we think about recognition as well. So this is some of the details from last year. So I'd won it 2 years ago. So this year I was like the captain of the team that ran Avengers. The way it works is we start the Avengers process. There's like a drum beat. It's like, okay, Avengers is coming. It's going to happen in like 6 weeks. And so we start collecting tons and tons and tons of nominations throughout the company. So this year we collected 150 nominations from 50 different people. On the right, you can see, similar to the Super Saturday War Room, there's like an Avengers War Room with all the different stories on the wall. We're like looking through it, looking for details. And then on top of that, people are submitting stories, but then the Avengers Committee, which is made up of former Avengers, so like me, Justin, Gauri, other people who've won the award in the past, we go out and interview. And so when we interview, we're looking for details, like how has that person really helped you? We're challenging the story too. It's like, maybe, are you sure they weren't just doing it because it made them look good? Like, what was their motivation? We're like getting into all the details, really, really trying to understand the motivation behind the person who's being recognized for this award. That is like a very intense process. As it narrows, it goes from the whole company down to 25, down to 10, and then down to 3, and then finally the 1. And so all of this is happening. It's all being shared. The company's getting more and more excited each week. And then it kind of culminates with that ceremony where the families of the top Avengers nominees are there with their family members, and it's like a really special moment. I would encourage you to watch the videos because it'll give you a feel for what it's like. The other thing that I think is very unique and special about the Avengers Award itself is it's not a monetary award. So I'll talk a little bit about my experience. The way the award is, so the award is a $50,000 vacation. And so in our case, my mom was in the Army. She then left the Army and works for the Red Cross now. She still works for the Red Cross. And so I think she had done that largely to be able to raise me the way she wanted, like in terms of more flexibility and all that. And so, I grew up like, with an importance of service, and my mom and I had never really gone on vacation together. We didn't have a lot of extra money to go on trips or whatever. And so this vacation for me and my grandparents was extremely special to us. And what the vacation was, $50,000. We went on a cruise. We had a room on the cruise ship that was like 5,000 square feet. So on the bottom right there, you can see the grand piano that was in our room. So just to give you a sense of the scope of the vacation. So it was, suffice to say, it was a remarkable event, I think, because, I think at one point Charlie, one of our CEOs, asked my mom, it's like, well, where would you go? Like, what are your dream vacations? And my mom was just kind of like, I don't really think about that stuff because it's not possible. It's not like a thing that has ever entered the realm of possibility for her. And so the type of award matters, I guess. And so like a $10,000 boost to your paycheck is so much different. Like the ability to share this experience with my family was like priceless. To share the experience of being on stage with them, to share the experience of going on this vacation with them, and I think that's a big part of where we've recognized like what the recognition matters, the process matters, and the award matters, and the stories that you're able to tell after is really important. So where does that leave us? There's some key takeaways, another kind of punch list. If you didn't take away anything else, here's some like kind of ideas that you could take on, and then I could leave some time for questions. Creating a system of desired behaviors, that is in Coronitas, in Top 10, in Avengers. The question and like the thing that we're looking for as a program of recognition is pretty much always the same. It's like, who's helped you succeed? How are they growing? They reinforce the cultural values that are important to Next Jump. It would be very disconnected if it was just about who was closing the biggest deals each month. Linebackers versus quarterbacks, we talked about that, more about like who's helped you succeed versus the MVPs. Crowdsourced, that's a big one, like adding transparency into the process, allowing, I think that's one of the fundamental differences between a recognition program where people feel like left out and resentful versus a recognition program that people feel engaged in and proud of I'm proud that the person I voted for is in Top 10 this month. Like it's just like a mindset shift. Lastly, the power of stories. I think it makes a powerful story that it's like I couldn't really find photos of the President's Award happening. It's just like, it's kind of a gap in our history. Versus now, like the Avengers is like, it's cultural. Like the Avengers, every single one is on our walls. We share the stories. It's part of the award is like documenting it and sharing it and getting the company excited about it. And the power of those stories is an important kind of lesson that we've taken away on recognition. So that is the.
I want to do demo actually.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess I can try to demo real quick. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it seems to be working better. Sort of. I might still be a little bit too far away from the computer. Okay, so this is the top 10 application. I explained briefly all the employees get 1,000 WOW points at the beginning of each month. That's the way this program works. This is just the first time user experience. So who helped you succeed this month? This is just sort of some tutorial information about getting started. Every month you're giving 1,000 WOW points. That's $10 over the course of the month. You can give these WOW points away as a way of saying thank you. Simple to use, so I'll just demo it. So this is the leaderboard for right now. That's deliberate. The first thing you see is the leaderboard. I want to know kind of like who's trending, who's on track to be in the top 10 this month. So I can see that Purvy's number 1, Key is number 2, and Suresh is number 3, and I can see how many points they've been given. I can see the different leaderboards for various periods of time as well. So last month, last year, all time, those different breakdowns. In particular,
There's a reason why he was the Avenger.
yeah, it's a little. I should get someone else to demo it. The other part, one of the cool things about this app is that anytime you can go in and see the latest activity. It's like, okay, I want to see who's voting for who and what that looks like. So I can see the latest votes that have come in at any given time. So Nick voted for Purvy. If I go in and say, I like this vote that Shuilan gave for Key, and so I agree with that, I can click boost. What that does is that just adds 50 more WOW points to that particular vote. And it just kind of confirms, it's like another data point, like, oh, John also liked this. I could also go in and leave a comment on this particular vote, like totally, oops, agreed, something like that. Anyway, I don't want to type out a full message, but that's one way you can gauge. For any particular person, I could jump in and see their profile page. So if I wanted to see, how many times Nick has won top 10, how many points he's received, how many points he's given, is he engaging with the platform, who exactly is voting for him, and who is he voting for. Those are just some of the basic interactions of the platform. The key kind of use case, within the app is to vote for someone. So for example, if I click vote, I can see a list of all the different employees within the company. I can search for someone. So if I want to vote for Ramani, Ramani is on my team, and she was like instrumental in running our latest Super Saturday hiring event. So if I want to go in and recognize her, I would go in, see her profile, select how many WOW points I want to give her. Say it's 200. And I would type a message. Thank you so much for running point on Super Saturday. I really should type something longer, but for the sake of this, I really try to use the note to convey as much meaning as possible, and really let them know how I feel. It's part of the thank you. There's WOW points, but it's like money. I think the note is much more meaningful, and so I usually would type something better. But you can go in here and edit votes. So I'll go in before the end of the month and add something more meaningful. So I'll cast that vote. My vote for Ramani will now show up in the feed, so anyone using the app can see it. Ramani will get an email saying that I voted for her, and she'll also get a push notification on her phone saying, John Hilliard just recognized you. And so that engages her in the app. She can come in and comment on it if she wanted. She could come in and then be reminded to vote for somebody. The kind of vision for this is it does create a feel for who's trending, who's doing good work, who's helping others succeed, and you can come in and see that in any given time, any given point in time in the leaderboards and in the activity feeds themselves. The only other thing I'll show is there's one of the nice opportunities within this app is the ability to see company level stats, what does the participation look like? Are people engaging with it? Are they not? Which office is using it? Who isn't? Which team isn't? And so some of the basic level analytics are built into this application as well. So I'm glad the mouse worked. So that's all I have. Any questions? Sure.
Yeah, the question is, do you find that sometimes people conflate, it seems like a lot of these structures, we're talking about how to recognize the cultural contributions.
Yeah.
But do sometimes people conflate that with performance? Even sort of what you just commented on was thank you for running point, this that seems
Yep.
like a personal accomplishment,
Okay.
perhaps. So does that happen? Do you need to kind of continuously delineate that for folks? Do you feel like it's pretty embedded?
Okay, so just to restate the question in case it couldn't be heard in New York, it's around the conflation between contribution to culture and kind of like still achievement or like getting something done.
Right. Well, like from my understanding, there's sort of you'll see like kind of the two halves of the whole being like the revenue,
Mhm.
like the cultural side.
Yep, yep.
And it seems like this kind of the last day has been focusing on like the structures and systems for contributions to the culture.
Yep.
I definitely have a lot of curiosities
Okay.
around the systems for contributions to like revenue and just performance in like a more traditional sense. But I guess I'm just wondering, in these systems, do folks feel pretty clear on what they're like kind of needing to kind of make mention of, or just sometimes like more performance-based feedback come through these systems, and that's perhaps not what it was meant for? I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So I'll try to answer. We can definitely connect more offline on this. I think revenue and culture, I think the connection to recognition, it works on both sides. So for example, I talked about Romney running Super Saturday, but I use this app, for example, for Pushkar, who's like running our systems and like team, and like he's like, you know, fixing servers or whatever. And it's still, I think, the fundamental, you know, question that we're trying to reinforce is, how has Albert helped you succeed? You know, Romney helped me succeed because she took a lot off my plate. She like helped me like not worry and freak out about all the things that could be going wrong with the lateral Super Saturday. And I think that's it, like the revenue and culture matters less, but it is not about specific like sales goals or something like that. Even if I might be recognizing someone helping me on the revenue side versus the culture side. It could be happening on both sides. Sure.
So these wow points are currency.
Yep.
And you know, if you ask me to do something and Bridget asks me to do something, and I know Bridget gives me more points, I'm going to be going to her. Right? Is there a limit to how many wow points you can give out in a month or a week?
Mhm.
Or how do you keep it from being abused?
Okay.
I can't find a better word, but
Yeah,
abused like that.
that's a great question. So just to restate, wow points are money. How do you keep it from turning into like you scratch my, you know, like, or some kind of bribery system or something like that? So yeah, there is a limit. Right now, it's each employee is given 1,000 wow points at the beginning of the month, which is equivalent to $10. Those wow points can be redeemed for pretty much anything within our shopping platform, a plane ticket or iPad or whatever. But yeah, you know, I think I'd have to think a little bit. I think ultimately one of the things that does become clear because it is transparent, I think that misuse of the system itself would be very clear. I think that a lot of people are using the votes as a way of saying thank you versus like preemptively trying to get someone to do something. I don't think that would work very well, at least within our culture. And I think ultimately I feel like the culture, it works kind of like an immune system in some way. So like if there is like behavior that doesn't quite line up, it just like kind of weeds itself out in some ways. There have been times like, for example, where I've seen a vote in there, I'm like, that's not really like helping you succeed. It sounds like you are thanking someone for like staying up all night or something like that, versus like having a thoughtful vote. And so in those situations, I've gone and like had a conversation with someone just like, you know, I think part of the, you know, reinforcing the purpose of the platform. So say, for example, as someone who leads Top 10, one of the things I've done at various points in time is when I've seen a lot of votes in the Top 10 that don't quite jive with the way and the intent of the program, I'll do like a bit of a reset. You know, I have the whole company listening and say, just as a reminder, like here's the intent of the program. We want to recognize people who are helping others succeed, and remember that Top 10 feeds into our Avengers program, which is our Avengers Award. And so I think reminding people of the purpose periodically is also is one of the ways that I've dealt with, not like misuse, but just, you know, not necessarily recognizing the behaviors that we set out to.
Like a drift.
Yeah, totally. It can happen. Any questions in New York?
I think they turned us off a while ago.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Oh yeah, leave me feedback in the feedback app. This is the first time I've done this presentation, so I'm curious if any, you know, thoughts. How could I make it better? Thank you.